Greetings, everybody. Welcome to Therapist Take. We have a really special episode. We are going to talk about the power of film and how that relates to mental health, so you don't want to miss this. So don't go anywhere. Hey, Carrie.
Hey, Josh.
How are you doing?
Good.
Good. We are not filming on our regularly scheduled time.
I know. We changed it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now everybody knows we're not in church.
I know.
We're broadcasting live on a Sunday morning instead of Friday morning.
Yep.
So I appreciate you coming in. You too, Xander, for helping out here.
Glad to be here.
And we have a really special guest today, so we don't want to dilly-dally
No.
too much with a lot of banter back and forth and get right into it because we have a lot to talk about. But before we do that, let's just kind of introduce ourselves. We are licensed marital and family therapists, so we're not a couple quacks just decided to do a mental health podcast.
Right.
And then, of course, Xander, who kind of is the producer and works all the screen and all the great things that makes it what it is live. He is also a licensed marital and family therapist and has a lot of good things to say, and we enjoy having him here.
Sometimes.
Yeah, you do. We've talked about this. You have a great radio voice.
Oh, thank you.
You don't even need to be a therapist. You could just use your
radio
voice and you could just pass. People would be like, it's so therapeutic just listening to you talk.
Oh, here are my 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we're doing this series right now on the healing power of stories and storytelling. So today we're joined by Erin Elizabeth Cook, an award-winning producer, screenwriter, and actor who began training in theater, television, and film at just 12 years old. She's worked both in front of and behind the camera across the country and has appeared in more than 30 speaking roles in films. Erin is also an accomplished screenwriter, earning over 30 awards for her screenplay, The Tentville Nights, including the Golden Pen Screenwriter of the Year award. Her short film, Chasing Shadows, which she wrote, produced, and starred in, premiered at the Beverly Hills Film Festival at the TCL Chinese Theaters in 2024. And most recently, she wrote, produced, and co-starred in the film The One, starring Martin Sheen, which was filmed entirely here in Oklahoma. Erin is also a strong advocate for PTSD and mental health awareness. And Erin, we're glad you're here. Welcome to Therapist Take.
Hi, thank you so much. It's nice to be here, Josh and
So
Carrie.
good.
Thanks for having me.
I think it's been 11 years since I've seen you in person.
Like in person.
Yeah,
person.
like we are right now.
Yeah,
sitting
like
in a room
premieres
together.
and things like that. But I think we met maybe a little over 12 years ago, right? Or 13.
I think so. Whenever Facades, the student-led film back then.
Yeah.
For me, it was Facades was. I turned 35. That's the reason why I thought it was 2015. Maybe I just turned 34. And it was like a bucket list. I just want to go do an audition. I never thought I was going to get a part in anything. And so they had these student films going on, and so I went and auditioned and got that role as Grant, the oil tycoon that likes younger girls. When I say young girls, they're grown, but they're in their 20s.
Yes.
And you played the wife from being hurt by infidelity, which kind of fits what we do here, and working with people who battle betrayal trauma. And it was a really fun experience. And one thing I wanted to bring up about that was, I don't know if you remember having to kind of teach me. There's a scene, Carrie, where have you even watched it?
No.
I'll link it in the
please
description
do.
so people can watch it. I for the longest time would not send it to people because how I get why people don't want to watch their own
Totally.
films, right? Themselves on film, right? But there's this scene in there where I have to grab you because you're about to get really violent.
Yeah.
And I have to grab you, and I grabbed you on the first take, and you turned to me and you're like, Josh, you're gonna really have to do it. And I was like really, because I'm a big guy, and what I can remember is your arms did not feel very big to me, and so you're just gonna have to do it. I was like, really? And you're like, yeah. And I can't remember how many takes we did, but by the end of it, you had my finger bruises on your arms.
Wow.
I did.
I was like,
Goodness.
that just it's a weird feeling, but we ended up getting through it. Okay. And
Yeah,
you
we
didn't
did.
hate my guts at the end of it. It sounded like you were okay with what we had decided to do.
Well, and
there,
that's the most important thing, is that everyone is accepting of what's getting ready to happen, you know, because I wanted to get the most raw and real performance. It's a student film, so I couldn't call in for my stunt double, you know what I mean? So I had to, like, give you that permission to do that so that we could get the best performance possible. So.
And in that scene, too, like, I was grabbing you to protect you and the other character in the film from you. It wasn't egregious, but I don't know how, my wife and I have talked about this a lot, how people have to do these, like when they're the bad guy and they have to do these really awful scenes. Like, and I would imagine that's a much more psychological prep work that might need to take place there. I don't know what the right word is there.
Well, it's the opposite of being a therapist, which is the basic do no harm principle, right? I mean, it's just like a different part of trying to do a job for you, I would think.
Yeah.
I think with that and playing the villain, though, the trick for me to get through that is that, you know, a character doesn't hate themselves. You know, and the audience might hate the character, but I don't hate myself. I love myself for all of these things. And so you have to find all those things in the character that are likable, even though my character really at the core wasn't very likable, but then you kind of understood why later at the end, right? But
nobody was really being a good person in none of the characters were. The only one I can let off the hook was the girl that played my girlfriend, who was like 22 years old. It was just like there, like, you know. But I mean, but I was also like a sugar daddy to her, and like, and I'm like the peacemaker of the group, but I'm also this oil tycoon who's dating 20-year-olds, you know, and you can just kind of see, like, I watched the whole thing recently before you came here, and I was like, man, there's not one character, there's only 6 characters in the whole film, and not one of them is really being a good person in this, at least at this juncture in their life. And so.
Right, exactly. So, well, maybe the wife. But anyways, that was a fun one.
The one.
Joy, what was her character's name?
But remember, like, Joy was keeping the secret.
That's right. She was. So even she was a dirty dog.
Right.
Dirty dog. You know, honestly, that was a student film. So there were probably some safety measures that we didn't take that would be taken on a union set right now. Like a knife that wasn't actually real, like one that actually retracts or is plastic.
Oh my
I didn't
goodness.
even think about
We had a real
that.
gun too. Now we have plastic guns on set. Like, you know what I mean?
Was that a real gun on set?
Yes. Remember, David had to call out the weapons guy because that's part of the thing. When you're on set with a weapon, you have to show the actors that are performing in the scene that the gun isn't loaded in between every single take.
Oh, wow.
Maybe I shouldn't have been twirling it in between takes. I'm joking with you. I wasn't.
Yeah.
That's it, right? Yeah.
I didn't know that was real.
And honestly, we should have probably had a stunt coordinator on set, but again, that was 12 years ago. Things have changed a lot, and that was student film.
Yeah.
So what student films what happens on student films is a little bit different than what's going to happen on a movie that Martin Sheen's in.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about this film you have going, or this in post-production right now.
So The One is a story about Hawk. He lost his mother in a fire, and so he's been in and out of multiple foster homes, and sadly he's experienced some abuse in one of the foster homes, you know, and then he has abandonment issues from another foster home that he thought was the one that was going to keep him. And even the dad thought it was the one. And then ultimately life happened and he had to go back into the system. So we see these stories as Hawk is, you know, he travels to see the tallest Christmas tree in the country, which is actually in Enid, Oklahoma.
Enid, Oklahoma,
yeah, it really does exist. It's called the One Tree, and it's an annual event. And so I wrote the story around that tree, basically. But when Hawk arrives to Enid to see the One Tree, you know, the internal goal is actually what's more important than the external goal. We think that he's going to see the tree, but really the internal goal is he wants to belong. He wants to find his spot, and he doesn't know that. He doesn't know where he belongs, you know. He's always just been used to figuring out how to fit in so people keep him. And so he has PTSD that he doesn't know what it is. He's having panic attacks. He's having nightmares, you know, from the abuse, from the trauma, from these things that happened to him. And how do you understand what that is when you don't have any sort of parental guidance, like, you know, or just knowledge of mental health in general and PTSD and panic attacks and flashbacks and all of these things. So Hawk gets to Enid and he crosses paths with Jefferson, who is played by Martin Sheen. And Martin kind of guides him around town, shows him how to find some food, and introduces him to people in town. And he's kind of a mysterious character. I can't go too much into detail about him other than he sort of acts as Hawk's mentor. And when we kind of talk about archetypes here in a second, that'll kind of make a little more sense to the average watcher. So at that point, we also have another family. We have this family in Enid, right? The Miller family. And they're your typical average, you know, Christian family in a small town. But they lost Alexis's twin sister to leukemia.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, and they're also grieving this. I mean, it's been 3 years ago, but when you lose someone like that, it you never completely get over it, right?
Right. Yeah.
And everyone grieves in different ways. So the way Lisa grieves her mom is by avoidance mechanisms. She's put all of the pictures into the attic. She's put all of the old videotapes in the attic. You know, and that's how she copes with things. Where Alexis just wants to be able to remember her twin sister Jessica. She wants to be able to remember her,
Right.
because she, you know, and trying to erase her is hurtful to Alexis. So Alexis is coping with all of that, and a mom that she can't connect with, and then you have the dad who's just trying to keep it all together, and then you have the zany Aunt Jordan, who is me, who comes in, who's just trying to make jokes to like make light of those moments you can cut the tension with a knife.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, ultimately, Alexis runs away. And that's when she crosses paths with Hawk.
Awesome. Yeah.
And so I can't really say too much after that, other than they go on this journey together. She learns about Hawk's past, learns about the foster system, and Hawk also learns to like understand what's going on with him. You know, and
So it's like a journey of self-discovery.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Wow, I can't wait to watch it, and that's packed with a lot of emotional elements.
I'm emotionally attached to all the characters in that little description there.
Well, good. Thank you. That's the point.
Can you tell us anything about Martin Sheen?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Absolutely. What would you like to know?
I just want to know what he's, because let me tell you why I'm asking. It's because not just because he's in the film, he might be my new favorite person in Hollywood, because I've always been a Charlie Sheen fan. I've stuck with him through all this, you know, Tiger Blood and all this stuff. And so when his documentary came out recently, I watched it, and the things he said about Martin Sheen, it just is like just heartwarming about what he did to help his son get through all this mess of a life that he was in.
To me, Martin is literally like Jesus walking the earth, like literally, or like I can't explain. I can try to explain in words how incredibly gracious this man is. This man did not want to sit in the trailer in between downtime. He wanted to go hang out with the extras. And to every extra, he'd go up and he'd say, "Why, hello there, I'm Martin Sheen." And they'd look up like, "Of course, we know who you freaking are, sir." Like, you know, why are they talking to me? And then looking to the producers, like, "Are we allowed to talk to him right now?" I'm like, if Martin gets to do what Martin wants to do, okay? You know what I mean? If he wants to talk to the background actors, he can do what he wants. But not every actor is going to be that way, you know? So that's why the background actors are like, "Whoa, is this..." But that was Martin. And when I was here with Martin, we spent a lot of time together. And, you know, we put him up in this hotel. And he's like, when he got to the room, it was the presidential suite. We didn't actually get him the presidential suite. The hotel upgraded him because they're like, "We have Martin Sheen on the books." You know what I mean?
Right.
So Martin gets up to the presidential suite and he like walks 2 steps in and he's like, "What the hell am I going to do with all this room? This is ridiculous." So he calls down to the desk and he says, "Please put me in a normal room. I do not need this room. This is not how I live. Can you please just put me in a normal room?"
Oh, wow.
And then, like, when we were going to go eat, I was like, "Martin, can I order in some grilled salmon?" Or, like, "What do you need?" And he was like, "Let's go get some garbage food. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, are you ready, kid? Well, it's the end of rap. So he takes me and my friend Leah and Oz, our editor, and he takes us to Boomerang Grill. And we are reminiscing in Boomerang Grill because, they have all of the old, James Dean's up there. They're friends of his up on the wall.
That's amazing.
So we're ordering greasy cheeseburgers and fries, me and a greasy veggie burger. Because I'm a vegetarian. And just getting to listen to him tell these stories about that. It was amazing. And he handed over 100 rosaries while he was here in town.
Wow.
He went and he did a volunteer interview for the Catholic Shrine because they're trying to raise money to do a film. And the man just... I'm sorry. He's just impacted my life in so many more ways than anyone could possibly imagine. And I'm lucky.
Yeah, that's so amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it's validating my take on him because and I like hearing you and seeing your response to that because it's nice to know that how you're experiencing people on film or in interviews is actually authentic.
Yes.
And kind of what you're saying and from your emotional response, you're like it's truly authentic. He's an amazing person. So I wanted to shift gears into talking a little bit about your process, especially in hearing you talk about the one and all the mental health nuances there to that and human nuances. What your process is like of building out your characters and thinking, because as the writer you have to be all the characters, right, at some point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. Screenwriting you can start many different places. Some people start as a screenwriter. I started as an actor. And so I used those tools to apply to my writing. And you do get into every single character. But if you got into every single character and psychoanalyzed them and did a backstory from the time they came out the womb all the way to, you know what I mean? It would take you 20 years to write a screenplay.
Right. Or you'd be J.R.R. Tolkien.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So you write in a couple of different ways. You either start with, for me at first, I just started with a character. I was writing to have things to make up for myself to audition with. Well, then I took that character and I planted her into a different story that made sense. So you can do it many different ways, but in this case, I had something to kind of work around. And from the Tentville Nights, my experience on the streets working with the houseless people, out in the house, when you're out there, 40% of the kids out there in between the ages of 18 and 25 come directly from the foster system, and 70% end up incarcerated before the end of their lives, So I always knew that I kind of wanted to write about that, and I didn't know what that would look like until I went after, I went to the person who owned the one, and when we talked about making a movie together. But in the case of building characters out, you have stock characters, right? So when you think of a stock character is just trying to get someone from the main characters from point A to point B. Okay. That might be a security guard. Today I have an audition for a security guard. It doesn't really cause any positive or negative impacts to the characters or my life as a viewer, right? But it serves a purpose in that character's life. Well, I don't need to sit down and think about Detective Johnson's backstory because literally his only purpose in the story is to carry on the story of my mains, right? Okay. Now, when the actor that gets that role, if they want to go in and then dig deep and do the work on that character and really do that, then that's great, Yeah. But then you have your typical characters, okay? And everyone's like, oh, well, you don't want, there is room for stereotypes. And you want to have some characters keep those stereotypes because they're familiar and because they're going to bring laughter and they're going to bring certain things that just come with that natural, I'm trying to think of, okay, we have this character, Debbie and Tabitha. It's your mother-daughter duo in high school, okay? The blondes, I've got it all, I'm number one, and my mom just loves everything I do. Those two characters are very stereotypical. but they're so important in helping tell Alexis's story, right? So you have your stock characters, you have your stereotypes, and then you have your main characters. And so you're going to take your 12 archetypes. Okay. And you guys know about archetypes because they come from Carl, I always say it wrong. Is it Jung?
Young.
Jung, I know. And then, I'm sorry, and is it Carl Thompson? What is that his name, Xander? Why am I blanking?
I don't remember. I just said it like
I don't know, but we were just talking about it. But anyways, there's
James
two.
Patterson,
James.
right?
There we go.
No, that's
Isn't the guy who does
Campbell.
Campbell, that's it.
Yeah.
Joseph
I was gonna
Campbell.
say.
Joseph Campbell.
We figured
Yes,
it out.
thank
There it
you.
is.
So those are the two that really kind of leaned into archetypes.
Yeah.
okay.
And so, just to kind of like for the lay person, just to give you some like relatable scenarios of like what that might look like on TV for them. So you have, let's start with the one, because Hawk is this. He is the orphan.
Oh, yeah.
He also represents he could represent like the everyman. But this character is the one that's seeking belonging. And so an example of this type of character is Forrest Gump. So that's his basic archetype is this, right? That's his main one. But then Forrest could also, as a writer, that's how you build these characters, is you add a little bit of the other archetypes, right? So like now you have the Jester. The Jester is Ace Ventura. And that was his main archetype.
Yeah.
But there were other things
Such a good one, by the way.
to that, right? Yeah, that Jim had to find
Yeah.
to level it out so that his character wasn't stereotypical.
Wasn't just the
Right.
stereotype, yeah.
Yeah. You're going to make my
Yeah.
12-year-old come out in me in a second, but go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I love the 12-year-old in you. So and then Baby and Dirty Dancing. She's a lover. But there was so much to Baby, She also took on elements of the innocent.
Yes.
So just really quickly, you have 12 archetypes. You have, and they have different names for each of them, but you have the jester, the lover, the creator, the ruler, the caregiver, explorer, the hero, the innocent, the sage, the magician, and the rebel. And then the orphan or the everyman. So those are your main 12 archetypes. And your main characters are gonna kind of fall under each of these things, and then you're gonna start layering them. And then you will do what an actor does when you're working with your mains as a writer, and you will go back and kind of build a little bit of a backstory for each one. Where does this person come from? And for me as an actor, what was so great as a writer is that I could literally act out my scenes back to see if it felt real and authentic.
Right. Yeah.
So but yeah, that's kind of how you build characters, and then you just keep layering. Like the one started off with a very, very basic screenplay. I had the story, I had my characters. At that time, I probably there were a lot more stereotypes. There wasn't much depth to them yet.
Not a lot of layers yet.
Right, and we had a table read, and at that point, I hadn't opened up the PTSD yet, and I'll tell you why. And it's because I have it, and I was afraid to go there. I didn't know if I was ready to go there
Yeah.
because it's such a responsibility.
Yeah.
yes.
Sure.
But I talked to my mentor, and he's like a father figure to me. Sam Baldoni, he's been part of my life for so long and raised me up, and that's where I learned how to produce and everything. And I was in his office, and I read over 100 screenplays in his production office. That's what he would make me do, just sit down and read screenplays over and over again. So subconsciously, I was always building that tool up too.
Yes.
Throughout,
Right.
Share all those experiences.
Yeah.
right.
It sounds like the one, or in maybe not. I'm just using this as the example since we've been talking about that particular film. But it sounds like that, as an actor and particularly as a screenwriter and producer, you have a larger purpose than just to tell a good story, entertain people. You're really trying to connect with people and where they are, because it seems like you understand the power of the story that can have on someone's mental health. Like someone watching this film that might have been in the system, I go, I get that. That's me. And maybe that leads them to realize that they're not alone. And then maybe that leads them to reaching out to a therapist for help or a mentor, or, I don't know. It's just kind of the way it appears to me. It's much bigger.
It is
for
so
you.
much bigger for me. And, I was getting so tired of auditioning just stuff that I'm just not interested in. And don't get me wrong, guys. I love a good thriller. I love a good action movie and all of that. But I just don't feel like God put me here to make what I call we call it chocolate covered broccoli is what we call it, right? There's a place for that, just to be entertained. That's fine, but that's not what I was put here to do. I was put here to inspire change. I was put here to inspire hope. And I don't believe that all the tragedies that I've gone through in my life, I went through to make an action movie.
Right.
All the tragedies and all the trauma and everything that I've built up inside me, I have to put that to some sort of good use. And so I truly believe that it was my destiny to create films so that people can see themselves in something, have hope, look at Hawk and realize that there is a chance for you. You know what I mean? There's so many people that don't have any hope right now, and it's just the world's getting crazier and crazier, and we need more movies that people can grasp onto and really, really connect and really just remember that and hold on to that hope. But yeah, it is very important to me to change the world with my art in a better way.
Yeah.
It sounds like the definition of post-traumatic growth is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Because when we look at when we're trying to help people, we're not just trying to explore what are the bad things, but we're really trying to look at how do you heal those things. And it's
Absolutely.
not just a sense of belonging, but it's a sense of something bigger than you, right? And so that's what post-traumatic growth looks like, right? And so it's such an interesting thing to think about, that what you were telling, what you were revealing that was going to happen in that table read, and then to think about what it's become. It's that whole, when we would think about kind of the arc of treatment, right? That's where you want it to go anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's totally true, 1,000%. And it's like, I was almost murdered by my ex. I blacked out. The only reason why I survived is because his mom forgot her water cup that she takes every day to work, and I was staying with them at the time. So she turned around and came back and found me blacked out. That is now why I deal with the things that I do, in addition to some other trauma. Once you have trauma that intense, like we talk about betrayal trauma, you have all these things, and then the trauma just happens and happens and happens.
Sure.
And no one is having time to recover from it, it feels like. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah, you're right.
and
Especially, I think it's even worse now in the age of social media. Because people just don't have time to turn their minds off.
you have to train yourself to stay out of the comments.
Oh yeah, I can't even imagine that part of it.
And it's like right now I'm in that phase in my life where I'm not used to this yet, but I'm trying to figure it out. Like, Erin, 20% of the people are going to hate you and they're not going to like this, or maybe it's 10%, whatever it is.
Right.
But I can't sit online and look at all the comments and get my feelings hurt by a stranger,
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, social media, gosh, that's a whole other conversation, guys.
Yes, it is.
Well, let me take it. I want to stay with the thing because that we were talking about with telling stories and the emotional impact is so clearly like, you have found an outlet for you in this, and it helps you, but it's part of it is, I think, the understanding that your craft is helping other people. And I think a lot of people can really easily fall into the trap of going, well, this is just a movie, and of course it works out. But I think if that's where you go with it, like you're missing a larger point, and that's probably just a defense mechanism. Like what's kind of being told is like, this is a story, that has been written and has been played out on a screen. Like we are in our own story, and we have the pen, and it's hard. It's hard. I mean, I'm not saying there aren't influences that affect our ability to write our story, because there are. But if we can recognize that we're holding the pen that's writing our story, we can start writing ourselves out of the darkness of our lives and into the light. It's a lot easier said than done, but I think that to me would be kind of hit the point more instead of missing the point. I mean, do you agree with that, or do you?
Yeah, and this is, I do. And the reason why I can say that is from a personal experience. Again, I'm just going to speak personally from my healing process. I am such a bad A girl. Mm-hmm. I'm a boss B. Mm-hmm. I'm strong. I'm independent. I'm not a victim. So for the longest time, I'm running around with all this trauma and PTSD and like not thinking that I was actually a victim of domestic abuse, verbal abuse, manipulation, all of these things, because I was stronger than that. I could control that. You know what I mean? Sure. And then it got to where it went, and then I still didn't accept it after that. I didn't even realize that what I was going through with the PTSD and stuff like that until lockdown. Because then my husband could watch me and my behaviors, and what was happening was not what it should be. Does that make sense? I was having flashbacks. And because it was the first time that he sat still with me in a location to really see like my behaviors and things like that. And that's when I sat back down to the computer. Claire had already existed as a domestic abuse survivor. Then I started writing my story through Claire. And that's when I realized, I think that I might have PTSD.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I do.
Yeah.
And I live with it every day, and it led me to a path of wanting to overcome this, or at least be in control of it as much as I possibly can. And it also allowed me to say, like, I'm not a victim, but I am a survivor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
You were victimized at one point in time.
Yeah. And so, and I used those moments a lot of times to help me act. And going back, that probably wasn't as safe. And we can talk about that here in a little bit. I think that was something you wanted to chat about. But yeah, so to your point, absolutely. Writing can help you heal or make you like realize things. Or sometimes just hearing someone else, you're telling your story out loud and you're realizing it and hearing it back, you're like, wait a second, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 100%. I think that's the power that you're wielding through this craft and art, you know, and I think some people are like, it sounds a little like maybe, you hear people say you watch too much TV, you know, and there is a thing. I mean, I'll be the first to admit you can watch too much. You got to get away from the screen sometimes and get out and get some vitamin D, you know, but I think sometimes we use that when people are talking about talk about movies the way someone might talk about books. You don't ever hear somebody say you read too many books,
Right?
Yeah.
you know, like it's also there's stories, you know. So some people are getting their story fixed through movies and television, and it can be an escape, but so can reading books. That can be a healthy escape. But I think if when you're able to talk with people about it, I think that's where it becomes connecting.
Yeah,
right.
sure.
It's reading a book and then never talking to anybody about the book that you read. Like what? Like go connect. You know, like go tell somebody about what you're reading and how that impacted you. Go tell somebody about what you're watching and what that did for you. It's one of my favorite things to do. And Xander and Carrie can both attest to this. Is to be like, hey, did you watch this? You know, like there's this really powerful clip from I think the one that always jumps in my mind is from the Netflix series called Beef, in episode 8, when she interacts with the witch that she was reading about her children's book. Just a powerful scene about how a child might develop a narrative that says that no one will love you if you reveal who you are.
Yeah.
You know, it's super powerful. And children are, they're constantly living out a story or a fairy tale or something, you know, so.
1,000%.
Yeah. So I think people need to embrace it, you know, and let the story impact. Now you're doing it through, you're the storyteller, but there's also, you as a storyteller, you have to figure out how to connect with the audience. And not everybody, this isn't an episode, this isn't just the power of the healing power of storytelling. It's the name of the series is the healing power of stories and storytelling. So you don't have to be a storyteller to benefit from the healing power of stories, you can also participate through observing, right?
Be a viewer,
Watch. You can watch it, in other words. But you have, as the storyteller, you have to also keep in mind, all right, how am I going to connect with the viewing audience, right?
For me, I always come in it with the producer's mind. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? When I'm writing, I can't help but do that. Because here's my belief: everyone has a story that they could tell.
Right.
Everyone has a story
100%, yeah, I
that
agree with
deserves
you.
to be told. That doesn't mean that it needs to be told on a big screen with Martin Sheen and Janet Kramer as your actors. It might just be that you're telling your son a story about when you were a kid.
No, yeah. I like that you said that. Yep.
You know? You might do
talked
theater. You might tell a story via music. You know, that's how my husband copes. He is music.
Music, yeah.
I'm like, gosh, can you just turn off the... And I'm like, oh, wait.
Can you just turn off
And then
your
he was
healing
like,
mechanism?
you watch too many movies. You play too much music. You know what I mean? And then he can't hear and I
Yeah.
can't smell. So we're just like a mess, you know?
But you're right. You know, you were talking about Carl Jung earlier, and I think Carl Jung is the one who's quoted as saying one of the greatest gifts a parent can give their child is to tell them about their darkness. Because when you tell your child about the stuff you went through, you're telling them what it means to be human in this world.
Yeah.
And we're so afraid of that as parents, to tell our stories. Like, I want to know my parents' story. I want to know my grandparents' stories, and I don't know them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and some people have them, have written them down and things like that. But we just don't want to, either it's probably a both and, you know, like we don't want to go back to it and relive it in our minds. And I think there's a part of things we're protecting our children by not telling them about these things that happen to us.
Yeah, I think, I'm not a parent, you know what I mean, to a human. So I can't relate as closely
kinda
to
are,
that
though,
as you,
because
but I wanted to still hit on it
You're
because...
telling, like, your children is the world. Like, you're broadcasting to all of us, you know,
Yeah.
your stories. It's the same principle.
The reason why we're all at odds right now, I feel, is because we don't talk about these things. If we're talking about these things, and that's why I'm so happy to be here and able to have like a mental health conversation, because like, why is there such a stigma on it? You know, like, because everyone thinks Erin's crazy. Everyone jokes at work that Erin's crazy. Well, I am, but you know what? I'm proud of that because it has made me so much. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Spirited, that's what I would say.
yeah. So, but yeah, everyone has a story where it's told, whether it's in lyric, whether it's just literally at the dinner table when you're out eating, whatever it may be. But as far as my responsibility as a storyteller on screen, it's even bigger because I'm using someone else's movie. I'm reaching millions of people, not just the table of 8
Right.
or my family of 5. It's a huge reach of people. And so there's a huge responsibility and a large amount of stress there as far as that. I could just write whatever I wanted and hope that it got bought or whatever. And I mean, yeah, there's a place for that. And there's some screenwriters that do that. But we can mess things up as storytellers too and do a disservice to something when that wasn't necessarily our intention. And you have to be very careful. Not only how you write the characters, the actors, there's just so much more that goes into it. And when you're talking about sensitive social issues like foster care and domestic violence and things like that, there's just a certain way you need to approach it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're talking about, like, maybe it could be really easy to misrepresent something unintentionally.
Absolutely. And I will give you
Right.
an example of this, okay? Hawk is Native American. That's culturally, you know, that could be very difficult.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go write for a Native American that I didn't truly understand where they were coming from. So Hawk is like me. Hawk is whitewashed. He grew up with Christian white families for the most part, you know, one mixed family. And he has no idea even that he's Native American.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really?
He doesn't.
Wow.
No one's ever taught him
But this is
that.
part of his character.
Yeah.
Right, this is his character. Okay.
And so we touch on this very lightly because I don't ever want the Native American culture to think that I'm using the culture to sell a story.
Oh, yeah.
Because too often in Hollywood that happens. Well, let's throw some diversity in there or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
What I wanted to show with Hawk was how he lost all of his culture, and he never had it as a result of being brought up in the foster system.
care system.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and so I wanted to subtly touch on that.
Sure.
But also, I can't have a whole nother side story because we've already got the PTSD,
Right.
all
Right.
these things going
Right.
on. So maybe this is the 1-2. Maybe we delve more into
Yeah,
that.
right.
You know?
Yeah.
I can see how you have to identify sensitive issues and figure out how you're going to address those. And I can also see how we just missed it. We just missed that,
Yeah.
because,
Well, but I think you're reflecting something that's very true, right? You are trying to think about your audience and be respectful of a vulnerable population, but you're also trying to tell the story of this character who truly doesn't know themselves. And so, his ignorance is because that's his lived experience. You're not making a political statement about that. That's
Exactly.
really what he's lived. And so I like that you can tell it that way, because I think especially young people and young adults, that's exactly what developmentally they're going through, right? They're parroting what they've learned, but then they start to think about, what does this really mean, and who really am I, and what does this actually do for me in the real world? And so that's what people are going to connect to. They're not going to connect to things just being politically correct or simple. I don't think that those aren't the stories that move us, right? The stories that move us are the ones that are more authentic and complex.
I think so. And I just hope that the studios start to realize that there's a place for that right now, because there are so many really great scripts out there. There's just not enough money for those stories to be told.
To be made.
So you have a very much stark, you have the independent world and then you have the studio world.
Yeah.
There's very little in between anymore.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So like mine was independently financed, I didn't have a studio backing us.
Wow.
Right.
But then that's why you guys are getting sequels and things like that.
know,
And the movie
the same
theaters.
thing,
And,
yeah.
You just need to make a really good, cheap horror film and then use the profits from that to make all the stuff that matters.
If you only knew how many times I heard that at AFM, which
Oh,
is the
no.
American Film Market, and I was like, look, I got this great inspirational drama, but do you have a horror that's
my
done in
goodness.
Asian whatever? And I'm like, let me see what I can do. You know what I mean? But I get it. Those guys are money guys. All they thinking is dollars and numbers of what's selling internationally and what I can rake in and stuff like that. So that's the fun thing about filmmaking, is that there's so many different elements to it. You've got the creatives, you've got the business side of it, then you have the sellers, and then you have these agents, and you have all of these things. And so...
Well, speaking of all the things, in your post production, do you what's the sound booth called where they go in and they put like the footsteps in? You know what's that called again?
Well, that's called Foley, the actual
Foley,
art
that's
of doing that.
You guys doing that? Do you have?
So we have a great audio team up in Tulsa, Audio Planet. Josh and Steven Tackett up there, they were our post sound team.
Yeah.
So they're the ones that went in and did the Foley, or like we'd call it a loop group. Like we had a song, the actors were singing and they sounded horrible, so we had to bring in what we call a loop group.
Yeah.
To make them sound a little better, and they sing and all that stuff. So
I went and toured a studio in Hollywood, and it's the first time I learned about this. And it's like they literally, at least in this one, have a big freaking TV, and they're watching the film, and they have all these mics and these different, whether they're in footsteps or they have all these different types of floor that they can walk on, and they have this whole rack of shoes, and they're like ancient because they just use the same ones for years, so that they can create the sound as it's happening, as they're watching it.
It's amazing.
On every footstep. Like I was like, these are things that you just don't appreciate as the viewer, like that's going on behind the scenes. So that's really cool that you're getting to do that stuff. So I'm very envious of your job.
I know.
I probably shouldn't be, because I'm sure it's I can't. It sounds like a pretty cutthroat industry, but to actually get your story made.
I know.
So.
It's no lie that they say when you finally make it, you're right at the point that you're done with it, and that's honest to God true.
Oh gosh.
Like I was like, after this, I was like, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm
I heard
done,
writing's the same way.
done. And then they're like, no. And then Martin Sheen said yes, and he said yes, and I was like,
What?
wait, this thing is happening that I've been working my whole freaking life for is actually happening?
It's all
like,
here.
I had chalked it up to a whatever dream, you know what I mean? So
Yeah. Well, let's dive into the characters real quickly, because I want to hear from you, like how act, whether screenwriter, the actor, whatever, how you're able to access these parts of you and put that on film. And just wondering, like, do you guys also like when people are emotional and they're like portraying this thing? Like I think I mentioned in the last podcast I did with Jim that there was this behind the scenes thing I was watching, and I can't remember who the actress was, that she had a very emotional scene. They had to literally go get her and carry her off the set and help her calm down. So I was wanting to know, do you have those types of things going on where you have to, when someone's going to have a very tough scene, that you're going to have to tend to them after the scene or during the scene or things like that?
So, yes, and that's going to all come down to the actor's process and their tools and their toolbox and what they use. And so I didn't direct this film, but I chose a director that had me very involved. So I was almost like a co-director, even though I didn't take that credit, for multiple reasons. She doesn't have PTSD. And so getting those flashbacks and the panic attacks right was so important.
Yeah.
So important for everyone that lives with what I do. You know, the ringing of the ears and then me starting to fall out, and I'm living in between two worlds and I don't know what's happening. And we need to do that the right way. People need to understand this is what it feels like, the sounds that we're using.
Right.
So we're literally making the audience hold their breath with Hawk as he's having these experiences, right?
Yeah.
So I started off as a method actor. Much like whenever I was like, just do it, Josh. When I said just do it, it's because I want you to just do it, and so it's the most authentic in the moment that it can be. And that's how I acted for the longest time, until I got a scene that hit too close to home.
Oh.
It didn't take me 20 minutes to recover. It took me months. Because I allowed myself to relive the exact same thing that put me in the place that I am right now mentally.
Right.
And that was stupid. Now, some actors will be like, yeah, but that's how you get the realest, rawest performance. And like, hey, like if it's something that's not too close to home, I still do that. But it can be dangerous. So what I call that is like being fully immersed. Like you're fully there. You're fully dropped in.
Yeah.
But can you come back out quickly? And I realized I couldn't.
Yeah.
And that's doing more harm to me than good. And at the end of the day, I'm a human being with a family and this whole career thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we think of Heath Ledger, right? Like, that's
Exactly.
what I think of anyways.
He went so deep. Who knows?
Yeah.
So what I have learned, and I learned different ways, and to kind of help to balance that.
Okay.
And I use now what I call our thoughts out loud, character thoughts. So I start to think as the character, not as myself anymore.
Okay.
And instead of thinking about like what happened to Erin in the past, I'm like, what is the character thinking in this moment?
That's good.
So my lines are so memorized that when I'm on the set, that I'm just like, okay, well now Erin's like, Ian Jordan, oh my gosh, is that a pepperoni on the piece of cheese pizza? Like she sees the pizza, and that's a thought that Aunt Jordan is having in the moment, right? So using those character thoughts to be in the moment, and that also works.
Okay.
You know.
So I'm going to bring this to kind of what we do, because you just made me think about like we do a lot of betrayal trauma work. So couples who experience infidelity or sexual addiction and things like that. And I often will work with the unfaithful partner, you know, and they feel an immense amount of shame and guilt. And that shame and guilt, it drives them to respond, but it feels like I'm doing the right thing, but it ends up not being helpful in how they're responding to their partners, where they need them to be empathetic and sympathetic and to hear them, and they can't hear them because they just feel so terrible, right? So kind of inadvertently, they're making it about themselves, you know? And so what I'll tell them, I was like, you're going to have to remind yourself, you're going to have to talk to your partner like there's this someone else hurt your wife.
Yes.
You know, and she is here to talk to you, but you're not that person anymore. I mean, it was you, but you're not. That's not who you are. It's not who you want to be. So start putting on the skin of the person that you're trying to become, and try to take that role. It's like, I'm hearing you tell me this story about someone who really hurt you. it's not me. Like, but I'm really sad that that happened to you, and I want to be there for you, and however I need to be. You know, and it's kind of, it seems like it's a little bit of that same type of process that you're talking about of, you know, of removing yourself a little bit from, you know, the character.
Yeah.
You know?
Boundary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except the difference in the one that I'm doing, and I was like, where what I'm is trying to help them become the character that they want to be instead of the character that they have been.
Right.
Right. Where you're like saying, "Now be yourself in real life," and then become the character, right?
Correct.
Temporarily.
Got
So it's
it,
a little
yeah.
reverse, but it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah.
I think just in any circumstance, like just trying to take yourself out and looking at yourself from an outside perspective, it really helps in a lot of situations.
Yeah, but I think
Yeah.
that's something that takes a lot of practice.
It does,
Right?
And also accountability, which that's the bigger key right there. It's like I can only be accountable for what I'm accountable for. So
Right.
you know,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I think it's hard too because you're trying to give everything you can though to the scene, and that means getting into character, especially if you talked about doing it the method way. But then you're always yourself too.
yeah, you are, and in each of these characters, you find a little part of yourself because you are still yourself. They my acting coach used to say, like, you're putting yourself on loan, and you literally are. You're putting your body, you're putting your mind, you're putting your soul, you're putting everything on loan to tell the story.
Yeah.
I'm loaning all this stuff out to you to tell the story, but I don't have to loan it all out. You know, and I think that's hard because when you're just wanting to make it and you're just wanting to get
Yeah.
those performances, and it's like I'm hitting that stride and they're like, man, I'm doing such a great job and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, some of these people aren't living healthy lives. I mean, I have friends that are getting coke addictions on set because they're like, oh, well, I need to do the cocaine, you know, to feel like my character. And I'm like, really, bro? Because now you've got a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now you became too much like the character. Right. You gave yourself over. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we do put ourselves and our bodies on loan, but you've got to like be able to have your own boundaries, you
Yes.
know, and have your own protections up. And that's why it's so important for me to really just be involved. And I really prefer to do like SAG after jobs just because there are protections there for the actors. So if something happens, I can stop, call my SAG after rep and say, this is a problem. I'm not comfortable with it. And they come to set and they fix it for you, basically.
That's cool.
So
That's good. Yeah, it reminds me, like, I think of, like, you know, our minds can go to, like, coke addiction and things like that. But what about, like, Christian Bale and him losing all that weight and then gaining all this weight and then losing all, it's like, that could just, I often think about that. Like, that just can't be good for your system to,
Well, and
to
also-
gain and lose so rapidly like that, you know?
yeah, it's definitely not healthy. But also make sure you're making the right decisions for your character because it's not your job as an actor to make. The director's directing the movie. The writer wrote the story. The director's responsible for artistically telling that story that was written. The actors are in that. The actor's job is not to come in and rewrite the entire role.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Right.
If they want to take liberties with a character, they do that in the audition tape.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think that was something we talked about, like, how do you change a character? How have you made a decision to change a character? Once I've had the role, unless I've had a serious conversation with my director and everyone else around me, nothing changes.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that seemed like that would just be the nice
What you-
thing.
well, what you
considerate
agreed to
thing
do, yeah.
You would think, but you
Yeah.
have some
Oh, I
folks.
bet.
Yeah.
The main thing is that you should have mutual respect and understanding. And, like, you know, one of the main things actors will ask whenever they're being offered a role is, like, are you willing to collaborate with me on this? And yes, collaborate. You take over? No, that's a different thing, right? And so, yeah, I want actors to have their freedom and stuff like that, but it is very important also to understand that not everyone's there just for you.
Right.
And we're there for a bigger vision.
Right.
It's the vision
Sure.
of the entire film.
Right.
And it's like, just because you feel this and this would be good for the character, if the director doesn't think so, the director doesn't think so.
Yes.
Move along, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
So it sounds like what you were saying earlier too is like if you're dealing with some unresolved trauma, it might not be wise to be really paying attention to what hits on that. But as you said, like it sounds like that you don't know what you don't know. Like, you know, you were in it and you just know like you were in it now, and then your months of recovery. Whenever you're tackling a hard scene with your actors, do you guys have any discussions about that? Like, hey, like this is the scene, the emotional one. Like, I want you to be paying attention to how you're feeling. I'm here to talk to you afterwards, or like, what do you need from us to help you, one, get through this, and two, just repair and recovery afterwards.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Who's taking care of the mental health, right?
And really, it is that is a team effort, right?
It's Martin Sheen. He takes care of it.
It sounds like it. I know.
Hopefully, you choose a director like mine that was compassionate. That isn't like, oh, everything's got to be my way, or you know what I mean. Like there are some directors like that, and people want to work with them because of the name, but I don't want to work with them because.
Yeah.
Who wants to feel awful? Anyway.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
You don't sound like that. That doesn't sound like that doesn't sound like you.
So no, definitely. And I definitely wanted all of our crew to kind of represent what I try to exude in my life. I'm not a perfect person. I do have my moments. I am irritable. I can be sassy. But I do just try to lead with love all the time and care for sure. And so just acknowledging each actor and exactly what you said. Like, this is a hard scene. Would you prefer to rehearse it a couple times? Would you prefer not to rehearse? Me, I know many different types of acting. So I can be like, hey, who do you train with? Mm-hmm. I know how Leslie Kahn trains. I know how Uda or Stadler trained. I know how all of these different people trained. Method, Meisner. I've done all the work in that. Mm-hmm. So it's like, and they're going to have their tools. We all have our tools in our actor's toolbox, and we're not all going to be trained in every single way.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm. So I try to know as much of those as possible so that I can first and say, who did you train with? And that's going to already give me an idea of, okay, well, that's how this actor's process works. This is how they're training outside of the film set. Mm-hmm. And so understanding that process before working with that actor is important. Okay. And I think a lot of directors don't take enough acting classes to understand the different nuances and things like that. And then what do you need? This is really hard. Like, what can we do for you? All of those things, like you said, is just communicating with your director. Do you want us to close the set? Would that be better for you? And by that, I mean just only essential people, not on the whole entire set of the movie, but literally this would be the set, and then you have Video Village outside the set where everyone can view everything. But like this part right here.
Closed, yeah.
Do you want us to have everyone leave except for the DP and the director?
Yeah.
Those things. This is a sexually intimate scene. I have an intimacy coordinator available and ready for you. Just having everything ready and available. If it's a scene that involves violence, I mean, making sure that you have a stunt choreographer there to protect the stunt, the people.
Yeah.
And
they need to feel protected by
and that's my job as a producer.
Yeah.
And it's my job as a producer to hire all the people that are going to take it as seriously as I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it all starts at the top.
Yeah,
right. Sure.
And so I feel like we did a really great job with that. But actors are going to be different. Like Jana, for example, she didn't really she would rehearse remotely. So she'd be like, we'd all sitting here at the table, and she'd be like, okay, I'm saying my lines, and I'm saying them really fast, and I'm not saying it with any emotion because this is how I do things. And then finally, when they say, okay, now we're really going to take this kind of and then
now, real quickly, she's a pretty well-known
Jana. Yeah, Jana Creamer. She's from One Tree Hill. A lot of people know her from One Tree Hill.
Yeah.
And she actually has PTSD from almost being murdered by her ex.
Wow. So you guys, did you guys know that before?
No, I didn't actually. I actually was not super familiar with Jana. My casting director sent me a picture of some up and comers or people that had, and my heart just kept getting pulled towards Jana's picture, and I wasn't quite certain why. Mm-hmm. I didn't know anything about her at that point.
Yeah.
Enough about her person.
Yeah. And
then we got a yes from her within less than 24 hours.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And then when I went back and I started researching her and seeing everything, I was like, oh, this is important to her too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Telling the story in the right way is very important for her. She wants people to know what she went through too, and she wants to be a part of that process.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
oh my goodness.
That's really cool.
Yeah. She's a very wonderful person. We had an amazing cast, so that's how she chooses to rehearse. But then you have Martin, who's he needs a reason for everything he does. So he would rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. Now, why am I stepping this way towards the bench versus to the right? And so he has his way of doing things.
Yeah.
He needs to know a reason for every single next step.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, how do we help Martin find those things?
Yeah.
Now, you don't really have to help Martin much because he is kind of a pro in and of himself, but I'm just using it as an example of just showing you some of the old school Hollywood actors. That's how they're used to rehearsing.
Okay.
Whereas a lot of the new school actors, they'll just hold it in until we hit roll because we only feel like we have 2 really good takes in us. And we're saving it,
Okay.
Right.
if that makes sense.
Holding it back,
So,
yeah.
but just knowing that everyone's going to be different and it's not so black and white, and just being open to not to the individual needs of a person,
Yeah.
of an
Recognizing
actor.
they're humans,
Yeah.
human beings. I feel like we just got into talking about like your responsibility to the humans and the mental health of the people that are trying to put this story together. Like, what message would you give the audience when it comes to? And I'm not just talking about your films, but just any film. Like when you're engaging in a film and letting it impact you the way it needs to, but not letting it become a method of escape. And like, what would you just say to those people?
If you see something that is impactful for you, don't hesitate to strike up a conversation with your family member about it. Like, look, this happened and it really bothered me because I didn't know this. Maybe it's something you didn't know. And like, did you know about that? Something I realized the other day is I don't even talk to my husband enough. I was like, we don't talk to each other enough about stuff, just stuff. And if we're not talking about it, like, we're just going to keep pushing it down, and it's going to become more and more of a stigma.
Yeah.
Like, when did it become a stigma to talk about feelings?
Yeah, that's wild, isn't it?
And I just hope that people are getting better at that. Like, don't live in your shame, live in what you can be, and if you see, movies can also help you figure out how to respond to other people that might be going through that in your life.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
What if you have someone that's having panic attacks or who has PTSD and they're having a flashback? They wouldn't know what to do, but perhaps by watching a movie, they're like, oh, I see what they're doing. They're stopping them. They're saying, do you know where you are? You're right here. You're in Oklahoma City. They can actually learn how to respond to those experiencing the trauma. And then if we use these and share these experiences together, that's how we make the world a better place.
I agree.
No, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it made me think of an interview I think I saw with like Lin-Manuel Miranda talking about Hamilton, and like, he took a lot of liberties with the actual story, like the the love story, the 3 sisters, and he talks about it. Like, I remember thinking, like, he has no problem. He has no problem with taking those liberties because he's not doing a documentary. He's telling a story, and he wants that story to resonate with people.
Yes.
And he tells it in a way. Yeah, there's definitely some liberties there. I'm talking specifically just with Hamilton's relationship with the love interest part of it, but there are also other liberties. But it makes it relatable to people, and I think that's what's key, And so kind of to piggyback on what you said, it's like, just let the story impact you. Let it happen and benefit from it.
I suggest that you take someone to share those stories with you in the movie theater too.
Yes,
I'm just gonna say it, man,
I
guys.
think
Like,
that's nice.
I'm so sad when I go to a movie theater and it's like empty.
Yeah.
It's like me and like one person, and we're like laughing so loud. That used to be fun when we were first dating, but now it's like you want that shared experience in the theater. And I just really hope that we can continue these conversations, continuing to bring back communal interactions and just universal love.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you're doing a really good thing, because I feel like it is like it is a conversation. Like, what you're putting on screen is you just have a much bigger audience, but it's a conversation between you and your story with the world, and I don't think people who are observing that, who let themselves be impacted by that, should be ashamed by that and feel like, oh, I watch too much TV, or something. No, let it impact you, and then continue the conversation, as you said. So that's great.
I'm just going to say one more quick thing on that. I've already had people in my inbox that were at the table read or whatever that have sent me things that said, Erin, I know that you didn't know this about me at the time when I was at that table read over 18 months ago, but I had just lost my sister. And I was angry. And I was unable to cope. Anyways, this year they went to the base of the Christ tree and they had their moment of closure. And it was all because they came to the table read. So I've already impacted.
That's cool. That is
way.
really cool.
That is.
Wow. That is really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it starts at the most basic, you know.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
Well, can you tell everybody how to find you, how to find the film, when's it coming out, just all the things that we need to know. And I'll make sure to put everything she says in the show notes and in the description of the video when I go back and do all the edits and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty easy to find. Erin Elizabeth Cook. I kind of keep all of it pretty generic, official. Erin Elizabeth Cook official. So you can find me personally pretty easily. As far as the film, we do have an Instagram. It's the One Feature Film, and then on Facebook, it's the One Movie. We're doing a 12 months of Christmas giveaway. So every month we have fun contests happening for prizes that include like Martin Sheen autograph props and like a meet and greet with Jana Kramer and just a lot of fun things. So make sure you're staying tuned for those because there's going to be like an all expenses paid trip to the world premiere too. So stay tuned. Make sure you got to be a follower.
Gotta get in there.
And
Is the premiere already set? Like when it's going to
so right now we're in negotiations. Whenever I went to American Film Market, it's confusing. This is the whole next level of the distribution that's kind of difficult to explain. But we're trying to decide who we're going to marry. Finding a distributor is much like who's going to take care of me and the best, right? Okay. And that is what finding a distributor is. So, you know, I've been offered, or I don't want to say I don't want to use that phrase. Our film has been offered many distribution deals. But we wanted to submit to Angel TV because for independent filmmakers, it's really hard for a studio to look at a new filmmaker's film, right? Or someone that they're not familiar with. If it's not Spielberg or
right, Scorsese or something.
Yeah. It's time to get more coffee, guys. I just had that moment where I was like, what were we just talking about again?
But the premiere is not. It's not been set yet.
Sorry, we talked about Angel. So we went through the whole guild process and everything like that. For those that aren't familiar, you submit a torch, and it's like a compilation of some of the things of your movie. And then if it gets a passing score, then it goes on, and then it's voted on. Well, we got a score of 88, which is really awesome. Wow. So 70 just gets you in, and 85 is for theatrical consideration, which we already actually do have other theatrical deal offers. So I'm nothing is set in stone, but I'm just going to say confidently that in November of 2026, you'll be able to see the one in theaters.
Oh, yay.
Oh, cool.
That's awesome.
So make sure you're following on Instagram and Facebook so you can stay tuned for when all this stuff is going to happen, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, very cool. Well, thank you so much.
Yes,
thank you. I'm sorry I cried on you. I do that all the time, I swear. I get
I'll tell you what we tell our clients. It's supposed to safe place. And when they cry, I say your body is literally releasing stress. So
totally, and that's the other thing too. It's like I joke about I didn't mean to cry in front of you, but I also think it is very healthy just to live in your emotions as you're having them. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, people are just pushing them down, and then you keep pushing them down, and then what happens? You build up to an explosion.
Well, and I think people are just drawn to that. I think we're all drawn to people being authentic, right?
Yeah, I think I'm glad you said that. Emotional expression sells authenticity. If you don't have, when you're very closed off emotional, it's hard to trust because you can't read. You can't read the room very well. And so when you're in tune with your emotions and you know how to appropriately regulate in different settings, and I thought you did very well.
Yes.
If you had to start boohooing in here, falling on the floor in fetal position, I'd be I don't know what we're gonna do right now. We keep talking, but you did very well with regulating in an appropriate context. And it shows that's a good emotional what's called the EQ, the emotional quotient.
Yeah.
And so that's good. But we've, again, so thrilled to have you. I can't wait to see the movie when it comes out. So I'll definitely be following, and I'm going to try to get my Martin Sheen.
Yeah,
relic.
you'll be entering all the contests. Yeah.
Yeah, and just a huge shout out to you guys too. I mean, just mental health is so important, and like there are very reasonable ways to get the help that you need and stuff like that. So just don't be ashamed just because of the way society paints something. Just, yeah.
Right.
And thanks for doing what you guys do, because I know what you do is hard work. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
thank
we
you.
appreciate you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And we will be continuing our series on the healing power of stories and storytelling. It doesn't happen consecutively, but we do have a couple more storytellers lined up, and so we look forward to continuing the series. Erin, thank you again. Maybe we can have you back sometime.
I look forward to it.
Awesome.
Thank you.